Good morning. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabara here with Jared Smith. Jared, you have made it to the promised land that is Scottsdale. Please tell us about how that trip went yesterday because it wasn't the smoothest of rides. Am I right?
No. So I made it about an hour outside of Vegas. I was on like the highway between Vegas and Phoenix is like a 2-lane road through all desert. And I was outside this town called Kingman, Arizona, and I'm just driving, minding my own business. Oop, jams on in the car, and all of a sudden the car in front of me like swerved to dodge this like giant piece of metal in the road. And I of course saw it too late and I went right over it. Tire just got completely shredded. Luckily, no accident, no injury. I just kind of veered off to the side of the road, panicked for like almost had like a mentee B on the side of the road for about 30 seconds.
A
And then I
mentee
was
B.
like, okay, a mentee B. Like it was happening. I was like, did I just really screw my car up on my ride? Am I gonna have to like go rent the car? Luckily, I was close enough to the exit. I meandered off the exit. I made it to the gas station right off the exit. And thankfully, it was a relatively
Yeah.
big town. And there was a discount tire about a half a mile down the road. So I slowly, with 3 tires, drove down to the discount tire. And I get there and they're like, yeah, you're like the 5th person that's come in. So like this random chunk of metal in the road on the highway between Arizona and Vegas got like 5 tires yesterday, claimed them for their own. So, but the good news was it was just a short delay, got the tire fixed, a few hundred bones out of my pocket, and actually ended up having a nice lunch at IHOP, went to the little hair cuttery nearby, got a little trim so I look fresh for the week. And then I went on my merry way and made it to Scottsdale a couple hours later, unharmed, but it was an adventure to say the least.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wait, so another just question about that. You trust just
Please.
anyone to cut your hair? You trust anybody?
Well, luckily I don't really have a lot of like issues. Like it's not like I have like a lot of
That's
styling
good.
requests, but really I wanted the
Yeah.
beard to get a little trim. Like she did like a nice little, the jawline looks good, and yeah, I cut.
Yeah.
I trust. I do have trust issues in life, but when it comes to hair, I guess less so.
Well, I'm glad that you made it. Glad that chunk of metal
Thank
was
you.
finally,
Thank you.
hopefully, taken out of the highway.
I hope
But you're in
so.
Scottsdale and it's Super Bowl. We have so much to get into. It is Thursday, Super Bowl week. Let's start it out. We have 2 guests on today. We have Holden Kushner, Frank Schwab, both coming on to talk about the Super Bowl, their picks, what they're predicting is going to happen. But before we do, let's talk about some NFL offseason news. AJ Green retiring after a great career, 7-time Pro Bowl wide receiver. What do you think about him hanging up the boots once and for all, no longer in the NFL anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I remember his days with the Bengals. Certainly a gifted receiver during his heyday. I think I think Father Time caught up to him and didn't quite have the stint with Arizona that he wanted to, and you could kind of tell that the writing was on the wall. But again, one of those players that I grew up watching and admiring for his acrobatic ability. He was one of the best receivers in the league during his prime. And I remember some really good games, especially when when Andy Dalton was, really humming with Cincinnati and they made the
Yeah.
playoffs. And I remember a game against the Jets where Darrelle Revis shut him down. So some fond memories, of course, on the Jets side when it comes to AJ Green. But he'll be missed. He's a hell of a receiver.
Yeah, he's hanging up the boots. Some big news for the Panthers, who seem to be on the right trajectory right now, which is something that none of us ever thought that we'd be saying about the Carolina Panthers. But they hire Giro Vero as their defensive coordinator, which a lot of people are saying is a home run hire for them. How does he impact the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers next season, who had a way better season than a lot of people expected this year?
Massive hire because, again, it completes the circle of trust for Carolina. Offensive
Yeah.
minded head coach, Frank Reich. He's going to be the de facto offensive coordinator. I don't know if they hired an offensive coordinator yet. I'm sure Frank will pick one of his guys, but you have to complete the circle by getting a really strong, young, experienced defensive coordinator who has a lot of big game potential. And I think with Avero, I mean, this is a Denver defense that was, you say what you want about their offense, but
Really good.
The defense
Really
wasn't
good.
the reason why that they fell short of the postseason. So again, I think when it comes to making hires in the NFL, the staff matters a lot, and it's not just the one head coach; it's the full circle. And I think Carolina is definitely elevating that, and it's a pretty tight knit group right now. I'm excited to see what Frank and Elijah can do next year. It's going to be a fun group.
Is the NFC South coming to life? We will see. The Saints hire Joe Woods as their defensive coordinator. What's he going to bring to that team?
Yeah. I don't like this one as much, to be honest with you.
You know,
I mean, the Browns defense. I think the most notable Browns defensive moment of the year was when they blew that 2-touchdown lead to the Jets in the final minute, and Joe Woods got a ton of heat for that, and I'm surprised that he found a new job so quickly at a very high profile position. Now the Saints are going in a unique direction. Of course, they'll get some draft capital back for the Sean Payton hiring or trade, I guess. And we'll see what Taysom Hill does. We'll see what the quarterback situation is there next year. But defensively, this is always a team that's been pretty good. So I'm curious if Joe makes them, like, I wouldn't be shocked if their defensive numbers, if I recall, they were a top 15 defense last year. I might be wrong about that, but I'm curious if they decline next year based off of this hire. I don't know how good Joe will fit into this role. I don't really know what the mesh will be, but the year with Cleveland wasn't great.
And last but not least, before we bring in our friend Holden Kushner, Devontae Adams may or may not be recruiting our guy, Aaron Rodgers, to Las Vegas. Do you think that could be a viable landing spot for a guy like Aaron? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him in this offseason? We can all speculate as much as we want, but hey, it's like getting back together that 1-2 punch of Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. You think that could be maybe a spot he ends up?
I do. I don't think it will happen.
True.
But I think it's definitely on the table. It wouldn't shock me if it happened.
Yeah.
I just, when I think about, and this will be, now that Tom Brady removed his name from the equation very early on in the process, this will be the biggest story of the offseason, where he goes. And I think, like I've discussed it, I think we posted a clip on this last week. I think Aaron's going to milk every second of this. I mean, he was just
1,000%.
He like if you think we're getting a decision anytime before like Memorial Day, I don't think we are. I think that's kind of like the cutoff, like when they start mini camp and stuff like that, like sometime around 8, like after the draft. Like I don't think we're going to hear about this until after the draft, because I think Aaron wants to see how the draft plays out. And then we'll go from there. But yeah, I could see Vegas. I could see the Jets. I think those are the teams. I think the AFC is the only conference I see him getting traded to, based off of at least what the Packers are telling us, and that could all be baloney anyways. But if, like, for example, like if the Bucs are one of those teams that are very quarterback needy in the NFC, drop a bag at Green Bay's door, maybe they change their tune about trading him inside the conference. I think it's safe to say he's not getting traded inside the division, but there's really not a divisional team anyways that would trade for him, with considering the quarterback situations of those teams now. But
yeah,
I could see Vegas, but when I'll post it back to you, because this is the most fascinating thing about the Aaron Rodgers situation. When I see him going somewhere, I don't see him going to like a Mickey Mouse kind of franchise. And let's be honest, the Jets, the Raiders, like they don't have the greatest histories. They don't have the greatest foundational, pillars of organizational strength. I don't know if that is a good landing spot for him long term. I don't know, whatever you think, but I don't see him going to one of those Mickey Mouse teams like the Jets or the Raiders, but we'll see.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I feel like he wants to win, and he wants to win now, because truly his time is ticking. He doesn't have that much time left, and so I don't think he's looking at necessarily, hey, this team is a Mickey Mouse team where, they don't have the best franchise and all of the things in the past. Like, I feel like he's looking at the pieces.
Are the Jets
now,
win now, though?
No. The Raiders could. The Jets cannot. The
Raiders might be, but what about that defense? Like, I don't know. Yeah, at least they have Devontae Adams.
We'll see what
Should be an
happens. But the
interesting
most
one.
important thing this week is going to be the Super Bowl. So for more on that, let's bring in our friend Holden Kushner, DFS sports betting content for Run Pure Sports and contributor for Better Sports Network, VSiN, and Bet Rivers. Holden, happy Taco Tuesday. How are you?
Taco Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. I'm doing great. Good to meet you, Jared. We just kind of talked. What's happening, buddy? It's been a little while. Want to say in advance, I have a geriatric cat that my kids made me adopt. It's 14 years old and it's loud. So if you hear a cat in the background, that's one thing. They have 3 horses, 10 chickens, and it's this freaking cat they made me get. So apologize if there's background noise today.
It's okay.
You're doing a lot out there. I love it. Doing the most with
There's a lot going on.
Out there.
There's definitely a lot going on.
Yeah. A lot going on, and a lot going on in the football world right now, too. We have the Eagles taking on the Chiefs this weekend. I can't even wait. It feels like it's been like 2 weeks since the AFC and NFC championship games, even though it was only a week ago. But what bets have you made already heading into Super Bowl 57?
Yeah, so I was just sitting up after the championship games were over. I'm like, come on, drop these props. So they dropped them really early, didn't they? And if you're betting props, you want to get on very early. If you're going to bet overs, if you're betting unders, wait till Sunday morning, right? Yes, absolutely. So the first thing I found was Jalen Hurts at plus money. I still think it's a play because you could probably find him around even money still, but the guy just scores touchdowns. What do you have, 13 touchdowns this season? So I'm expecting him to get in the box, and then 8-1 on a first touchdown. There's no reason not to at least sprinkle a little bit there just in case he does that. Because earlier in the season, I mean, he had like 5 of them, and he still got a shot to get in the box there the first time. So I like that one quite a bit. I'm all about same game parlays, but they're alternate teasers. You know, if you're putting 3-4 bets in a same game parlay, long term, you're probably going to lose money, right? But for me, what I've done, I don't know if this is going to be long term successful or if it's just a 1-year thing. But what I've done is kind of manipulate the numbers for the sides and the totals. I don't like to tease totals, but here what we can do is I got the total all the way down to 43.5. You can go over there. Chiefs plus 8.5. And you're getting that thing at minus 114 now. At the time, it was just about even money. So one of my favorite things to do in football that I've just discovered this year, manipulate the numbers. Let's take the total and the side and try to get as close to even money as possible.
Nice. The news with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, surprised me yesterday. That's a guy that can have an impact in this game, and Andy Reid's not afraid to use him in big spots. He used him in big spots last year, and during his rookie season as well. And I think he's a guy that he can change the dynamic of this game. Does him playing change your tenor of this Chiefs offense at all? Obviously, they're a little banged up offensively, but maybe getting a little bit healthier.
Let's talk this out, because didn't he lose his starting job to Pacheco before he went down? And then you've got McKinnon, who's been quiet over the last few weeks, who has not been as involved in the passing game. Maybe Helaire comes in and is a little more involved in the passing game, but I can't see him taking more than 2, 3, possibly 4 carries away from Pacheco, because they just absolutely love this kid. And it took them a while to trust him, but now they do trust him. He's just running angry, right? He's a really angry dude when he's got his pads on. So I think it'll be a minimal impact for Helaire in the rushing game. 2 to 4 carries could be big, though, if you're betting Pacheco overs there. And I think he probably gets a couple catches, too. But again, Pacheco won that job before Helaire got hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how their game plan is moving forward over this next week. Obviously, we won't know anything specific until the game actually starts, but we'll see what happens. Does someone other than a quarterback win the Super Bowl MVP this season, Holden? What happened?
Probably not, but it's entirely possible because we've had wide receivers do it, right? I know Edelman won an MVP earlier. We had Cooper Kupp winning an MVP as recently as last year. So I suppose we've had some defenders too. I mean, if you really wanted to get wacky, if the Chiefs win and Frank Clark, sacks Jalen Hurts a couple of times, maybe forces a fumble. But for the most part, for me, it would be down to quarterbacks and maybe wide receivers. Devontae Smith is my guy from the Eagles. Everybody's always on A.J. Brown. I love A.J. Brown. I mean, statistically, though, I think recently it's more Devontae Smith. Here's a guy in the slot. The Chiefs aren't great against the slot. So for me, that would be the one guy that I could go with. And then on the other side, tight ends never won, but if it's not a quarterback, then Travis Kelce's got to be in the mix, right? Even though the Eagles have been good against the tight end, they haven't seen anything like this guy.
Jared, before you go, I just want to say I saw someone put in a bet, actually 2 bets, for Chad Henne and Gardner Minshew to win the MVP this season.
Yeah.
They put like $100 on each one of those guys. I'm like, better luck next year, dude. Don't put those.
Yeah, you're betting on an injury. You're betting on an injury, which is very hard to do. I think
Holden, you can tell betting on an injury. You're betting on no talent. Gardner Minshew looked like garbage. I mean, this is why Jalen Hurts is so valuable. Had he not missed those games, to me, he is the MVP because they look like trash. So not only are you betting on guys getting hurt, you're betting on 2 bad quarterbacks. So this is another reason why books make money.
My guess is, and again, these are just guesses, but the bets that you hear released, like that are like, noteworthy bets that they release to the public, they're bets that they want you to hear. It's like bulletin board material. I'm assuming that person that bet that also has other MVP bets in the market, and he's just protecting what is likely a larger stake in Mahomes or Hurts. But that's not as sexy to come out with, some guy dropped $1,000 on Jalen Hurts to win MVP. It's a lot sexier to release, someone bet on Gardner Minshew. Oh, well, that's going to get some clicks and some likes. So I never pay any attention to that stuff because it's usually just fodder for the sports books. But I think the one thing that I'm curious with your take here, the MVP narrative. Like, I think if the Chiefs win this game, there's not a stone's throw in hell that Mahomes isn't the MVP. But on the other side, I could see a lot of scenarios where the Eagles win and it's not Jalen Hurts. For example, the NFC Championship game. He's not the MVP of that game. It's Reddick or it's Miles Sanders. It's one of those guys. So on the Eagles side, who besides Jalen Hurts do you think is the guy that we really should be looking at?
I think Devontae Smith is a guy. I think the Chiefs have had some issues covering the pass catching backs too. So good luck guessing if it's going to be Miles Sanders, or it's got to be Miles Sanders though, because Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell aren't going to get as much work. So AJ Brown, Goddard, Devontae. The only guy that I would consider outside of Hurts would be Devontae Smith. Then I disagree with you on the other side with the Chiefs though. I mean, there's not a lot of weapons from Mahomes now. What if Kelce just has a classic Kelce game where he goes off for 100 yards, 10 catches, and 2 touchdowns? So I do think there's a legitimate chance that Kelce could win this thing too, but a tight end's never won. And I get it with Mahomes too. But I think Travis Kelce could be at least in the conversation, Jared.
Sure, but he's not going to win over Mahomes. Like, I thought Devin White was going to win the year he had 15 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble, but it was Tom frickin' Brady, the quarterback for the Bucs. Like, that wasn't happening. And let's be honest, it was the Bucs defense that won that game, not the Chiefs. That was the Bucs defense that beat the Chiefs that year, and they still gave it to Brady. So I don't know. And Gronk, I think, had 2 touchdowns in that game. And they didn't even give it to Gronk either. So I think on the Chiefs side, it's going to be really tough for someone besides Mahomes to win it. But on the Eagles side, I could see a pretty wide open race if Jalen just kind of has an average game.
Holden, before we let you go, big picture, who wins the Super Bowl? Who do you think's taking home the trophy this year?
Most of the people are on the Eagles. I've been happy taking dogs. So Mahomes is going to go win 4 or 5 Super Bowls, and this will probably be number 2 for him. And the other side of things, Jared, you were just talking about defense. People forget when the Chiefs won their Super Bowl a couple of years ago, it was their defense that carried them. I mean, especially in that Super Bowl.
No one's talking about Spags.
Mahomes was great, but that defense stepped up. So, like I said, Frank Clark, Jones, these guys get some pressure on the quarterback. I could see the Chiefs winning this thing. Give me Kansas City. I always like backing a dog in the Super Bowl.
Love it.
Love to see it, Holden. Thank you so much for coming on. Follow him on Twitter at Holden Radio. We appreciate it, and best of luck with your Super Bowl bets.
Take care, guys.
Peace
Thanks,
out.
Holden.
Best
Great
of luck
stuff,
with your
buddy.
cat, too.
Yeah, peace out.
That is Holden Kushner. That is Holden Kushner, DFS sports betting content for Run for Your Sports and contributor for Better Sports Network and VSiN and Bet Rivers. And we're keeping this thing rolling because we have our boy, Frank Schwab, coming on to talk more about the Super Bowl. We're going to have nothing but Super Bowl talk this week. I'm so excited. So let's bring him in, Frank Schwab. You can follow him on Twitter at Yahoo Schwab, NFL and sports betting writer for Yahoo Sports. Frank, long time, no talk. Happy Tuesday. How are you? Oh, he's muted. He's muted.
Muted.
No,
There
it
you
was on
go. We
our
hear
end.
you now.
Okay,
I
all
good
right.
now. There
Let's
we go.
Just saying, I'm out
Happy
here
Tuesday.
out here in Phoenix, and that was it opening night last night, media night, and just getting ready
Nice.
to see way too much of these teams the next few days before we get the kickoff on Sunday.
It's going to be really fun. I'm so excited about it. So the line's kind of been set. Well, it opened up as the Kansas City Chiefs the favorites. Now it's moved to the Eagles, and we really haven't seen much movement since then. Do you think there will be a little bit of movement over this next week or so, or you think it's kind of stuck where it's at right now?
I honestly think it's stuck. Maybe toward the Chiefs, just because the way you think about this, they're such a public team that when the bettors get involved late, which most of the money for the Super Bowl comes in Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think the Chiefs will get a lot of that just because Patrick Mahomes has been such a name brand. But there's a reason this line moved so quickly. I think when the line came out, Chiefs -1.5 for like the 30 seconds, it was that. I think the line makers were actually right. I just think they underestimated the recency bias that everybody looked at this Eagles team just marching through the playoffs. Look, the stat I love throwing out, Ed Werder was the one who tweeted it. I'll give him credit. There's only been 4 teams before this Eagles team to win the divisional round by 21 points or more and the conference championship by 21 points or more. Those 4 teams were the 78 Steelers, the 85 Bears, the 88 49ers, and the 89 49ers. Those are 4 of the 10 best teams in NFL history. So that's what people have seen the last couple of games. And that's why I think all this money came in on the Eagles right away, because of recency bias. So maybe that evens out as things stays at 1.5. We all know the books don't want to move this much. They don't want to get middled on a 2-point Eagles win or something like that. So I think it might settle or maybe move a half point towards the Chiefs. But I think this is probably what it's going to be close to within a half point.
Yeah, I think Eagles laying 1 is the closing number. That was the look ahead last week, or I guess the prior week before the championship games. Superbook came out with 4 look ahead lines for all 4 matchups, and it was Eagles -1, and I think that's a fair number based off of what Philly has done. But to your point, and to Ed Werder's point, fantastic tweet. Do we really think the Eagles are just going to are they that good? Are they 85 Bears good? Because remember what happened in the Super Bowl. I mean, that was just an evisceration of the Patriots. Do we really think the Eagles are just going to wake up, roll out of bed, and 3 touchdown beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Like, I don't see it playing out that way. I think they're in for a bit of a tougher game here against Patrick Mahomes and arguably the best player on the planet after facing Josh Johnson and Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones. So all of that Eagles money that came in early, I think, is betting on something that is recency bias. Whereas, Frank, we've been doing this a while. It's never that easy in the NFL, right?
Right, exactly. And unless the Chiefs run out of quarterbacks like the 49ers did, this is going to be a tougher game. Like the Eagles, look, I love the Eagles. I was on the Eagles before the season. Still have a really, really nice future in my pocket that I'm hoping to cash. But I do also recognize they played by far the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. If you look, and I hate to do this because when you go 16-1 with your starting quarterback in the lineup, it doesn't matter. You're beating NFL teams. The Citadel's not on your schedule, right? But when you start to look at what are their quality wins this season, it's pretty light. It really is. You're like, well, who are the best teams they've beat? There's not a murderer's row of teams that the Eagles have just stomped along the way. Now, they've taken care of business against a bad team, so that's a sign of a good team, too.
Yes.
I'm not trying to discredit them, but this is a step up in competition for them. This is a tougher opponent. The Chiefs aren't going to get beat by 21 plus. I'd be shocked. I really, really would, unless the wheels fall off like it did for them against the Buccaneers a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. I just don't see that happening. I don't see the Eagles cruising to a win. Maybe they win because they are a really, really good team with a great roster and a good coach, but this is going to be a much bigger challenge for them than the last 2 games when they caught a good break scheduling-wise with the Giants in the divisional round, caught the break against the 49ers when the quarterback started dropping. Now the Eagles pass rush had something to do with that. Let's be real. But no, this won't be so easy.
Yeah, that's my biggest question is the Eagles pass rush going to be too much for the Chiefs O-line? It truly is like two of the best units in the league going head to head against each other. And so I'm excited to see how that plays out. In terms of props, who do you like? Because I know, if you're betting overs, you want to get it early. If you're betting unders, you want to wait. Who do you like and what props do you like for the Super Bowl so far?
Honestly, the one that I've played, and I'm still working through it, will be during the week here. I got a little bit of time for the kickoff, but it's Kenneth Gainwell. And I think everybody's on Kenneth Gainwell now, right? Everybody's looked at that line that came out at 18 and a half rushing yards and said, this guy had 100 in the divisional round, friendly game script, but 46 or 48 in the NFC Championship where he looked good. I mean, if we remember that point in the game, McCaffrey just scored that great touchdown at 7-7.
Yeah.
Eagles were not moving the ball at all. All of a sudden, they throw Gainwell in there, and he gives them a spark. He was ripping off runs on that drive. They kind of turned the game around a little bit. I think that the coaching staff thinks Gainwell's a little bit of the hot hand. I think he is the hot hand. His biggest carry games are the last two games. Probably not going to see that friendly of a game script, but the Eagles want to run the ball. They're probably going to be able to run the ball against the Chiefs defense, which is good but not great. So Kenneth Gainwell, it's already moved to 20 and a half. I got it at 18 and a half. Talked about that last week at a Twitter Spaces I had with Minty Bets. But I still think even at 20 and a half, it has value. I've gone Kenneth Gainwell anytime touchdown, I believe at plus 275. I even threw a little bit on the MVP at 125. Like, why not? If it's a complete running game for the Eagles, Miles Sanders is really good back. He's going to get his, but he's not a guy who's going to get 25 carries. Maybe 15. Maybe it cuts a little bit. He gets 12, 13. What if Gainwell gets 15, breaks off a long run, goes for $120 like he did in the divisional round? Do I think he's going to win MVP? No. Do I like 125 to 1 odds? I sure do.
Yeah, I think the case for Gainwell is if the Eagles actually struggle to run the ball early with Miles Sanders. Like, to me, if you're Spags and you're Chris Jones, like the way the Niners played the Eagles defensively is they played that wide 9 technique. They had both defensive tackles outside the outside shoulder of each guard. And Jason Kelce had a free release to every linebacker, and Miles Sanders was just pummeling it up the middle, and Gainwell too. My guess is Spags watched that tape and says, okay, Chris Jones, arguably best nose tackle in the league, second highest PFF run blocking or run stopping grade. You're going to man the A-gap, and you're not going to let anyone run the ball right down our throats. And if Miles Sanders struggles early, maybe Gainwell's that changeup that comes in later in the game to try to spark the running game, because the Eagles' running game is the heart and soul of this offense. And if it's not working, I don't see the Eagles offense having a good day. So Gainwell could be that nice change of pace if they really struggle to run it early in the game with Miles Sanders. All right. To me, we kind of talked about this already, but let's take a trip back on memory lane. The last Super Bowl here in the desert was the Malcolm Butler interception game. And that was arguably one of the craziest endings to a Super Bowl, maybe until the following year, 2 years later, when it was the 28-3 game. But to me, this is going to be a close game. What kind of game script do you think will start? Do you think the Chiefs get off to a fast start? The Eagles have been fast starters all season long. What kind of game script do you see us having here, Frank? And what do you think is going to be, the fourth quarter vibe?
Yeah, and ironically, I just talked to Malcolm Butler last week, wrote about that for Yahoo
Sports
on Monday. He's great. He tells those stories like it happened yesterday, and I was there. It was I believe the greatest game of all time in NFL history. It was just great. I think this game has a similar script. Do I think it's going to be that great? Probably not. The odds are against it. But if you remember, that game was 0-0 after the first quarter, because that's how I usually predict Super Bowls and bet Super Bowls. Slow starts. I think teams are nervous. I don't care if the Chiefs have been here a third time in 5 years or whatever it's been, 4 years. It just the nerves get to you. You're a human being. 110 million people are watching. This is the biggest game of your life. And there's also a feeling out period, almost like early rounds of a boxing match, right? So I think it's going to be the same. I think both teams come out a little bit slow. I don't think that either team rips off to a 14-zip lead in the first quarter or anything like that. And I just think it's tight throughout. I really do. I think the Eagles have the better team. The Chiefs have the baddest dude on the planet playing quarterback, and they're just going to go back and forth. I really don't, for all the props that are like, will either team lead by 2 touchdowns or whatever, I don't think so. I really don't. I think this is going to be really close throughout, where they'll just trade a lot of scores, a lot of lead changes, and I do think it's going to come down to the last few minutes, just kind of like that Super Bowl 49 out here. Maybe not the crazy ending like we saw with Malcolm Butler and Jermaine Kearse right before that with that circus catch everybody forgets, but I think there's going to be a great game that comes down right to the end.
I had
am
the Pats
so
-3 in that game,
excited.
Frank, for like $1,000, and it was one of my biggest wins I've ever had in a bit. And then the
I
following
had the
year, I had
Patriots
the
too.
Patriots again in the 28-3 game. So I've gotten lucky couple years in a row with those Patriots, man. Those are some good bets. Those
Yeah.
are some fond memories.
Unbelievable.
Thanks for the trip down memory
I'm
lane.
so excited. Frank, I know you have to run. You got a lot of things to do today, so we're getting you out right here at 9:30. It's 10. What time is it? Your time? 8:30.
8:30 Mountain.
8:30.
Yeah.
Everybody,
I'm at
because
9:30.
Arizona
Mountain time
doesn't
here.
use the
You're in
whole
Central, East Coast, West
Wow.
Coast. We've got
A
all
lot
the
of
time zones covered
going
today,
on
Frank.
right now. Frank, we so appreciate you. Best of luck with your bets this week. Have so much fun in Phoenix, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, guys.
Great
Peace
stuff,
out.
buddy.
Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Yahoo Schwab. That is Frank Schwab, NFL and sports betting writer for Yahoo Sports. Now, before we get into our best bets, Jared, let's bet it presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Make sure to pile up the wins, pile up the money with Superbook. Right now, the best betting app from Las Vegas is giving you free money every week you make a bet. Just place a $50 bet each week with Superbook, and they'll give you a $5 bonus up to $50 for betting each week afterwards. So if you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to get your streak started today. And Jared, we have an exciting announcement for Super Bowl week because Pickswise is giving away $1,000 to one lucky member of Pickswise Nation with our big game parlay builder contest. All you have to do is make 6 picks about what will happen in the Super Bowl, including the spread and total, plus player props, including Patrick Mahomes passing yards. And if you pick all 6 correctly, you'll be entered to win the $1,000 cash prize. Use the link in the Pickswise bio to sign up right now for free. 6-leg parlay. Jared, do you think you can hit it or what?
No, absolutely not.
You
But
never
I wish the best of luck to anyone who wants to try. I actually don't think I'm going to bet any parlays for this game.
Wow.
I think I'm just going to go all straight bets. Yeah, like I
Wow.
don't know. I don't even remember the last time I bet a parlay. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but it's been a while. I've been so
Yeah.
focused on individual bets all year. I think I might have bet. I think on my sheet I have like one money line parlay that I bet in the NFL this year, but
Mhm.
I've been pretty good. I've been a good boy this year. No naughty
That's
parlays
good.
on my bankroll. Yeah, I've been a good
Go
boy.
you. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
it's like a
We
cheat
have our
meal.
best.
Parlays are like cheat meals.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have our best bets of the day, but first,
We do.
Pickswise.com. 3-star plays of the day. Who do we got on the site today?
I believe there is one NBA pick from Philip Tomich, Suns Nets. So that's exciting. And also I saw Clef TA put up his first, probably his only 3-star prop of the Super Bowl. So we now have 2 3-star plays for the Super Bowl on the site. Bobby Stanley and Clef TA both chiming in with props. Bobby, we've discussed. Clef TA's is one that I will likely be betting at some point this week. I probably missed the number because I'm a lazy bones with these bets. And I was actually waiting to get to Phoenix this week because obviously Arizona, the market's much more favorable for betting than it is in Vegas with all the different apps that are available compared to what's available in Nevada. So I'll likely be getting on Clef TA's prop at some point this week, but it is up. And of course, he is our guy. So go check it out.
Go check it out. All right, our best bets of the day. Our 3-star plays, if you will. Jared, who are you on for tonight?
I'm going with Kansas State at home tonight against TCU. I got it at 4.5. If that's a little too many points to lay and you're just in the mood to shove on the money line, sure, why not? Have fun. Because I think Kansas State is reaching the point where they need to bounce back. They've had 2 tough losses, 3 of their last 4. Again, the Big 12 is a bear.
So good.
On any
So
given,
good.
it's unbelievably tough. So you look at a team like Kansas State and you're like, wait a minute, Jared, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. Why would you possibly bet on them? Well, those 3 losses are to Kansas, Texas, and Iowa State. Kansas and Iowa State were on the road. Fog Allen and Hilton Arena, 2 of the toughest places to play in America. So I don't really knock Kansas State for losing those games. And I think the talent is through the roof, and this team will bounce back and play well down the stretch. On the other side, TCU is really struggling, but they're struggling for different reasons. They're struggling because their best player, Mike Miles, their lead guard, has been out for the last 4 games. They've lost 3 of them. And I think in general, when you look at TCU, they struggle to score already. And when you take Miles out of the lineup, they've really struggled. And I think they're reaching that point now. Initially, when you lose a star player, you can overcome it. By the way, their big man, Eddie Lampkin's also out. Not as impactful on offense, but very impactful defensively. And then you look at now they played multiple games without him. I think as time goes on, his impact away from the court will be felt more and more. And now they're going on the road to face Kansas State, who is in desperate need of a win. Just like I said, they've lost 3 of their last 4, and they really have been struggling defensively. Gave up 90 to Kansas the other night. So I think this is a good bounce back spot for Kansas State. And I think their best player, Keontae Johnson's going to have a good game. Again, TCU defensively can get into you. That's the one worry for me, is that defensively, TCU just grinds this game out and they find a way to cover the spread. But I think more often than not, this is a game where Kansas State's going to stretch their legs a little bit and TCU is going to feel the effects of no Mike Miles. So we'll go Kansas State laying 4.5 at home tonight against TCU.
I like it. From the hardwood to the ice, because hockey is back from the All-Star break. So why not come back and bet my Colorado Avalanche on the money line on the road? I'm so excited that hockey's back now, second half of the season, which really it's technically like the final third of the season, but it's the good old Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon battle of Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, best friends from obviously back in the day. Just saw a photo of them together at All-Star. Now they're going to be on opposite sides tonight. I feel like the second half of the season is so important for both teams. They need to make a push for the playoffs at this point. Both teams hanging around the wild card spots in their conferences. Pens have been in the playoffs for 16 straight years. They're looking to make it 17 right now. Avs coming off of their Stanley Cup victory now. Colorado was really hot before the break. They won 7 of their last 8 games. Their offense was rolling. They scored less than 3 goals only once during those 8 games. All teams to under 3 goals in 6 of those 8 games. Now the Pens not as hot heading into the break. They lost 2 in a row and 3 of 4. They went into overtime in 5 of their last 7 games and they only won 2 of those. So if it's a close score game, I'd take the Avs on the live money line too. They have been struggling in close game situations. But big news for the Colorado Avalanche. Bo Byram, he was cleared for return against the Pens after being out the last 3 months with a lower body injury. So that's really, really good news for the Avs blue line. Also, the choo-choo train, Val Nichushkin, returning from his upper body injury. He hadn't played since January 24th. Now for the Pens, Tristan Jarry is out due to an undisclosed injury. So Casey DeSmith is going to get the nod. This is why I really like the Avs. Casey DeSmith, solid kind of, but he's 7-10-4 on the season, 3.35 goals against average, 901 save percentage. In the last 5 games that the Pens have played, they've allowed 6 goals twice. I look at who's in between the pipes for the Avs. Alexander Georgiev, he's been great in Colorado. 13.5 goals above expected on the season. He ranks 10th in the league in that. And he has a 933. Oh, my ring light just died. 933 save percentage in January. Frankie, not far behind with 925, but I just feel more confident with the Avs rolling the way that they were heading into the break. I think they're going to continue that heading into the second half, or I guess final third of the season coming out of All-Star break, starting the road trip strong. They have a 3-game road trip right now, so give me the Avs money line. And that's sad. I look like I'm on the dark side now. It's okay.
You got to charge it up, girl. Charge it up.
Charge it up for tomorrow. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. That's Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Javara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, peace.